9 enemy fighters circle beneath him. His engine is coughing. His fuel gauge is almost empty. His wingmen are gone, scattered, burning or dead. Every rule he has ever been taught says the same thing: climb, regroup, retreat. Instead, he does the unthinkable. He pushes the stick forward and dives straight into the center of the enemy formation at a speed that should tear his aircraft apart. What happens next lasts less than 4 minutes, and it will quietly change the way air wars are fought forever. Spring 1942. The skies over northern France belong to the Luftwaffe. British fighters cross the Channel every day knowing the odds are stacked against them. The Royal Air Force still flies in neat, disciplined formations, doctrines written in peacetime by men who never had a Messerschmitt on their tail at 400 miles an hour. On paper, the tactics are elegant. In reality, they are lethal to the men flying them. Spitfires are magnificent machines, fast, agile, beautiful. But beauty doesn't matter when doctrine is outdated. British pilots climb into turning dogfights. They engage honorably. They fight by the book. And they die methodically. The Germans know this. They've studied the patterns, learned the habits, memorized the rhythm. When British squadrons appear, the Messerschmitt 109s climb just enough to bait them. The Spitfires turn to engage. And then, like falling stones, the Focke-Wulf 190s drop from above. It is geometry. It is predictable. It is slaughter. Loss rates are unsustainable. Fighter command knows it. Squadron leaders know it. The pilots know it. But doctrine is doctrine. And improvisation is quietly discouraged. Until one man stops turning. His name is Squadron Leader Marmaduke Thomas St. John Pattle. Everyone calls him Pat. He doesn't look like a revolutionary. He has a quiet voice, a farmer's build, a calm that borders on unsettling. He doesn't argue with his superiors. He doesn't write memos. He doesn't lecture. He simply dives. While others climb into swirling dogfights, Pat pushes his nose down and uses gravity like a weapon. The first time he does it, his squadron leader writes him up for reckless flying. The second time, he's lectured about fundamentals. The third time, he ignores the lecture and does it again, and he comes back alive. Pat was born in 1914 in South Africa's Orange Free State, a land of dust, wide skies, hard work. His father was a mining engineer. His mother raised him with discipline and restraint. There was no room for drama, no tolerance for excuses. You worked, you solved problems, you moved on. Pat learned to fly in Johannesburg on worn-out biplanes held together by wire and faith. He soloed after just 7 hours. Instructors noticed something immediately. His hands were steady. His decisions were fast. He didn't overthink. He flew the way other men drove trucks. Calm, practical, instinctive. In 1936, he joined the Royal Air Force. Egypt, Greece, the Mediterranean, gladiators, hurricanes, then Spitfires. He adapted to each aircraft like a craftsman adapting to a new tool. No ceremony, no complaint. But his ground crew noticed something unusual. After every sortie, Pat walked slowly around his aircraft, not inspecting damage, listening. How did the ailerons feel at speed? Did the rudder flutter in a dive? Was there play in the elevator trim? He wasn't checking the plane. He was learning it. One crew chief later said Pat spoke to aircraft the way a man speaks to a horse, not with words but with attention. By 1941, Pat's kill tally begins to grow, quietly. No exaggerated claims, no heroic speeches, short bursts, close range, minimal ammunition. While others spin and bleed energy in turning fights, Pat does something different. He climbs high, he picks his target, and then he drops like a falcon, straight through the fight. 2-second burst, gone. They call it crude, they call it reckless, they say it violates principles of teamwork. Pat listens, nods, keeps diving, because Pat understands something they don't. In combat, time collapses. Turning fights stretch decision-making. They reward patience and endurance. A dive compresses everything. See, commit, execute. There is no defense against gravity. You cannot outturn momentum. You cannot outclimb surprise. Speed isn't recklessness. Speed is survival. The air war over France is a killing floor. German formations are layered, disciplined, patient. British squadrons still fly tight Vics of 3. Parade ground spacing. Beautiful, deadly. Wingmen focus more on avoiding collisions than watching the sky. German pilots simply pick off the outer aircraft, one by one. Command knows the tactics are failing, but changing doctrine takes time. Pilots don't have time. Then intelligence reports a massive Luftwaffe fighter sweep forming over northern France. The RAF commits everything. Pat's squadron takes off that afternoon into a sky already thick with contrails. At 22,000 feet they see them. Messerschmitts above, Focke-Wulfs below. A trap. The squadron leader orders the standard attack. Climb, engage, hold formation. Pat knows what comes next. He makes a decision. He breaks formation. The Spitfire accelerates violently. The airframe shudders. The engine screams. The altimeter spins. Behind him, his squadron leader is shouting into the radio. Pat doesn't answer. He's calculating angles. The Focke-Wulfs below don't see him. They're looking up. At 300 yards, Pat fires. 190 shudders and falls away. Pat is already past them. He pulls out at 12,000 feet and climbs again. Another dive, another burst, another kill. He never turns. He climbs. He dives. He vanishes. German pilots begin looking up, and that hesitation fractures their formation. 4 minutes, 8 kills, 9 if you count the first one he almost forgets. When Pat lands, his wings are bent upward from the G-forces. His fuel gauge reads 0. The ground crew stares. How many? Pat holds up 8 fingers. Pauses. 9. Vertical space. The Germans notice too. British fighters no longer turn. They strike fast and disappear. Kill ratios even out. By summer 1942, boom and zoom tactics spread, not by order, but by survival. Pat keeps flying. He doesn't lecture, he leads. He dies at 26, shot down over Greece. The war moves on, but his logic doesn't die. Korea, Vietnam, modern jet doctrine, speed, altitude, initiative, all echoes of one man who refused to turn. There is no grand monument to Pat Pattle, just a faded photograph, a tired man beside a Spitfire. But every fighter pilot today inherits his idea. That rules are tools, not scripture. That survival demands adaptation. That courage is acting despite fear. When everyone else climbs, sometimes the bravest thing is to dive.